to our final review. Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Quick refresher course. Elrond, who is played by Robert Arameo, is the younger version of the same character played by Hugo Weaving in the Fellowship of the Ring, and Galadriel, played by Morfydd Clark. What a name, Morfydd.
Wow.
Morfydd. Is she American?
I don't think so. That sounds like it could be Irish. If I were to guess, I'd say Irish. I'll look her up. I would guess
I'm
Irish.
on it.
Welsh. I'm sorry, Welsh.
Welsh. Okay.
What am I thinking? Yeah, of course she's Welsh. That's a Welsh name. You might not even say Morfydd correctly. That might not even be. I'm Welsh.
You're not. You're American.
No, I have Welsh in me.
That's the. I'm over at my place. You can get some Welsh in you.
Hello.
That's terrible. Anyway, Morfydd Clark is the younger. Yeah, maybe is the younger version of the same character played by Cate Blanchett in those.
Badass.
The OG trilogy. Episode 1 and 2, it was a double release on Friday. Lot to unpack here as far as like a summary of events. There's a lot going on. There's a meteor with a man in it.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Hobbits, but they're not hobbits. They're called like half feet or something.
Yeah.
And then there's Elrond. I don't like his face.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not like king shit yet. But he's out here wheeling and dealing and making deals with dwarves and everybody. And then Galadriel's like the ultimate badass, going around killing ice trolls, I'll get into it. But what did you think of the first two episodes?
So
Lord of the Rings.
I will say, I mean, like I like the movies, for sure. I'm not as big as like into fantasy novels as like the people that really get into this. I have not read the Lord of the Rings. I have read The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I read The Hobbit. I think most people just by accident read The Hobbit. I think sometimes it just falls in your lap and you're like, you read it. But I know when people super get into this, they're like super into it. I said to you, it's like there's so much of this content out there. It makes me think like Marvel, but like times 10, because you forget to actually like, even though those Marvel movies made more money, like there's probably actually more people that care about this, because in a sense of that, the people that care about this, like know, like they're making their own fan theory. Like they're so into it, and like that's awesome.
They
like,
speak Elvish.
Yeah.
Or Elven.
And it's like,
whatever.
Exactly. And so Marvel people are definitely their own thing. And we're Marvel people. And I like the Lord of the Rings movies, but I'm not super into all this. It was a lot for them to, I thought it was a bold decision to do 2 episodes right out the gate. Because they're still longish episodes. And so you're almost talking like you're talking a feature length film essentially, of content to consume when this is a full story arc that we're going into. And for the most part, it looks great. It is the most expensive show ever made. For the most part, it looks great. There are some things that don't look as good. And that happens, I guess, but it just felt like so much. And I watched these back to back, not in one night, but it's like I started one. I didn't really watch much else in between other shows or anything. And then I finished it, started the next one, did actually watch some stuff in between just because like the way my schedule was going. And it was just so much where I like kind of forgot some what happened. And then also was like, this is just a lot of content, even though it was only 2 hours. It felt like so many things happening. Like there were 6 storylines and we're 2 hours in. And so I think it's good, but I also don't know exactly what's happening. If that makes sense. Like I enjoy looking at it. I will say that as a child, I will say that it looks cool, and I like the elves. I am looking forward to when Orlando Bloom somehow makes an appearance because he is immortal, so he'll probably somehow pop up in there. But yeah, I know Elon Musk, not a fan.
No, I didn't see that.
No. Oh yeah,
Well, what's that all about?
Because it's not just all white people, and it doesn't stay true to the books. So he's
So
upset about that.
let's get into that for a second, actually,
Okay.
because we were
Sure,
talking.
that's why. Yeah.
We were talking with our friend Ty, and the plan as it stands, if you're able to go back and watch Wheel of Time, when all of these when these are both done for the first season, we're going to do a, kind of a 3-way breakdown of Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, and House of the Dragon. But that was like a thing that it's not just Elon, it's a lot of people have had that complaint about there not being any, or there being characters of questionable for the storyline ethnicity.
Yes.
And in particular, there's a black or biracial, I think the actor is actually like Puerto Rican or something, elf. And then there's a black hobbit, and then there's the Doran, the dwarf's wife, is also black. Thoughts?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that it is, 2022, and that means that we're achieving success as people, because the fact that this is even a subject tells you that like we haven't been doing much of this in general anyhow, even though it's 2022 and the civil rights movement started a good 70 years ago, and we're still like, I can't believe someone that has darker skin, even though the book doesn't say this. It's a little weird to me because it's like when these books were written, all anyone was in anything was white. And so like there's also a reason behind that. And I'm not going to say anyone is racist. I will never go that far. I don't know Tolkien. I don't, George R. R. Martin. I don't know these people personally. If I knew George R. R. Martin, I would call him every day and just say, "Can you finish
your book?"
These books?" I'd do it every single day.
I don't care what color the people are.
Yeah,
just finish the goddamn.
And so books. I think it's one of those things where, like, if this is literally the thing you're focusing on, it's like, show me you're racist without telling me. It's like one of those. To me, it's like a weird thing where it's like, let's not. It feels like a weird thing to worry about, in my personal opinion, when these are fantasy stories. That's where I have a problem. It's not based off reality. And that's where sometimes fantasy people and we clash, because it is fantasy. So that's where I would say I have a problem, is that let's look at the show for what it is, and also realize that we're, because this is a thing. If this was just all Anglo-Saxon white American people playing all these characters, this show would be torn absolutely to shreds.
I don't know.
In a different way. And I'm talking like you're getting a New Yorker article about it. You're getting things like that. I really do think that. I 100% believe that, because no matter what you do, things are going to be torn apart. And you don't want to look like you are exclusive. You never want to look like you're exclusive. You want to look like you're inclusive. And so if you have to bite the bullet and maybe to stretch who these people, are, these people in this, the story, to make sure you're not you want to be ridiculed because you're including people of all races. You don't want to be excluded because you're saying everyone is white. And that's kind of where I think this falls. That's my personal opinion. I just like, I didn't even think about it. I'll be 100% the, and like I said, I haven't read the books. I never thought about it. I'm not trying to be like the guy where it's just like, I don't see color. Of course I see color. I am a human being, but I just didn't think, I honestly did not think about it until I saw the Elon Musk thing. So
I think, um, I think that I personally don't care
that's,
whether
I think that's
there's
where I'm actually
people.
at, is where I don't
Yeah,
care.
I
And so,
don't. I don't care, but I also have a problem. I have a problem with diversity for diversity's sake because I think it then becomes inauthentic. And I think that the thing that needs that what we really need to do is less of, okay, we're going to take this, you know, 80, 70-year-old work of fiction that was based on the European region that the author grew up in. Okay. I know
right.
what you're saying.
Yep.
And instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, why aren't we empowering black authors or Asian authors or Hispanic whatever authors to make their own fantasy novels
Right.
about. I think that to me that's more inclusive, is instead of trying to shoehorn these things into these ancient existing properties, why aren't we empowering people to tell their own story? Like, that's what
Or,
I want to hear. I want to hear your own story.
and I will say, having worked at a book trade, there are many authors of all ethnicities that do fantasy novels. So I
Mm-hmm.
think what it is like getting producers to
to
get
to
after
look at
these
that.
because they're
Yeah.
good, and these kind of things win awards. And my thing is, and what I'm actually is you don't want to be the person that produces this show in this day and age, and your show comes out and they're like, well, there's not anyone here, this person's racist. You just don't want, you don't want to be that person. That
Yeah.
is basically my point on that. And it's like, you you may not have a racist bone in your body, to go back to that term, but like, if that's the way your show is presented, where it's two people, it's the cast looks like you and me, and that's honestly where we are at now.
But I also think that it's kind of like, so this example comes to mind. There was a game made, it's called Kingdom Come Deliverance, okay? And it's like a PS3 era game, and it takes place in 900 AD Bohemia. And this game caught hell.
I know it well.
This game caught hell because there were no characters of color in it. Well, do you know what else there wasn't? There were no people of color in 900 Bohemia.
Right.
So why are we trying to fit a square peg into a round hole?
That's,
And so, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't care because it just doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
right. It doesn't matter.
And if a an African American kid sees this elf and says, "That's cool, I feel represented," then great. But what I would like to see is more, like I said, people of color, people, minority, ethnic minority, LGBTQ, whatever, empowered to, like you said, get some producers to look into their work as well, because there's some really, really goddamn good stuff out there by these people, and it doesn't get nearly I mean, for God's sakes, like, this shit's been around forever. This Tolkien stuff,
Right.
Like, there's not a new fantasy, like, that's, I think. And there's probably going to be a lot of cross comparisons between this and House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, just because they're going on at the same time. But I think that that's what was so cool the first time around about Game of Thrones, where it was like George Martin started writing these. The first book came out in like the late 90s, I think, or the early 2000s. And it's new. It's not Narnia. that's been around since World War II. It's not The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, which has been around since the 1950s. It's not Once and Future King that's been around forever. You know what I mean? It's something that's actually new and cool. And I do think, while we're on the topic, that George Martin has done a really good job in his works. I mean, I've read the available Game of Thrones ones, and there are people of color in those books, and there are people of different, and he does a pretty good job with that, I think. And that is because he writes it in such a way that it's geographically diverse. So it's not just diversity for the sake of diversity. That's what I really have a problem with, because that kind of bastardizes the story, because now it's not telling the story in the way that it was meant to be told. I understand what you're saying about, if it's a cast of all people that look like you and me, it's probably getting ripped. And I get that. It's just that I think that there are other ways around it that are, in the end, going to be more inclusive and empowering than just, well, make a black dwarf.
And, maybe this is just a show where people decide to do that. It's like, oh, I read this and there's another book and it's an unknown author, and we decided to make it a show, and it's awesome because, whatever. I think going too deep in this show this early is, there's points we want to touch on, but like I said, it's just so much happening all at once. Anything you wanna focus on, Brent?
Well, I guess I didn't really talk about how I felt about the shows. The 2 episodes. I'll be honest, it didn't really grab me.
Okay.
And it looked pretty, like you said, although the scenes from both episodes that took place on the water were both really sketchy, as far as
that was rough.
And I just feel as though there are no excuses for that.
Correct.
When your show costs $435 million, the most expensive TV show ever, then it has to look stunning across the board.
I'm guessing that person that did the oceans was also doing She-Hulk stuff at the same time, and we're just like, what do I do?
There was just no time.
Yeah.
But
like the present.
I think that it just, like I said, it just didn't grab me, but it is early.
Yeah.
And I started the first episode immediately after watching the 3rd episode of House of the Dragon.
Oh my God.
I got like 3 minutes in and I was just like, no, this is a bad idea.
You can't do that.
Because there's not, I think I said it in a text message to you and Ty. I was like, I don't know if I can make the jump from sex and maiming to we're a bunch of
maiming to lightning bugs is a tough transition.
It's yeah. It's like going from Frozen to $1 Million Baby. It's just exactly. There's certain things you just can't watch back to back. Yeah. So I put it off a day, and then I watched it, and I was like, okay, this is fine. The big theory out there, though, at this time is, well, I have 2 things before we get into that. Number one, the ice troll scene where she takes that, like, everyone's helpless and she just takes down the ice troll. And then there was like a video game style finishing move. I was like, I don't know if I like that. It looked like real cheesy. Between that and Elrond's face, there's just I don't know what it is. I just don't like it.
Oh, it's rough. Yeah, it's weird.
I keep looking at him like, you remind me of somebody, but I don't know who it is. And I keep wanting to say Doogie Howser, but it's not.
It's not Doogie, no. But it's something else. I get it, Brendan.
I'll figure it out.
Probably someone you went to like school or college with that just bugged the shit out of you.
No, it's
no.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out and I'll come back with it.
Okay. Good.
But the big thing that everybody's talking about is, who is the stranger? And Nerdist, our friends over at Nerdist.
Yeah, our friends.
I know you're a big fan.
A big Nerdist, how they put zero effort and get all the followers.
The theory there is that the stranger is Gandalf. What do you think about that? You read the article I sent.
I read the article. Yeah, I read the article. That is Nerdist content at its very best.
Yeah.
Which means it's everyone else's work at their very worst. I will flat out say I applied to the job at Nerdist. I did.
Yeah?
To be a writer there. I did. Yeah. I applied to be a writer there to do what we're doing on this podcast. No, just full honesty. It was essentially what we do here. And
so what you're saying is sour grapes.
No, not sour grapes.
Sour grapes turned to fine wine.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not that. It's I would like a paycheck from the Nerdist. It's just that, I also I didn't get an interview or pay me. It's one of those things where I knew I didn't have to work that hard to make money because I know that's the Nerdist way. And
sure. Who's the is it Hardwick? Is that who the
Hartwick?
Yeah, Hartwick.
I don't know if he's still doing his thing with Nerdist. He was part of it.
Yeah.
And then he got canceled, and he somehow got de-canceled, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But aside of that, anyhow, it was just we just have to say whatever. And I literally think they put 7 theories in a hat. This is how I think Nerdist works. And someone just pulls it out, and that's what they write about. And that's
maybe we should try that.
Maybe it's. I think the other thing that bugs me, just real quick, they're also not good at writing, and that bugs me.
I don't know that I've ever read a Nerdist article.
Okay, good for you. You are smarter for not doing it.
I watched their reels and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The reels are terrible. The writing is even worse. I'm
fired.
Editors have been killed for letting stuff like that happen, and they just
quick question.
This was lazy. I thought this was just lazy. I really did. I just thought it was lazy. I think it was just let's take literally the most famous character in the Lord of the Rings and say it's this guy. We're going shots fired immediately. So I don't know. They're wrong.
Quick question.
If it'd be funny if it happened and I just look like shit, but that's funny.
That's fine. You'll have to do if it ends up being Gandalf, then you have to do another hot one.
I'll do it in memoriam of that take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do you know who currently owns the rights to Lord of the Rings media? Without looking at the notes.
I'm not gonna look. Obviously, I don't believe in that cheating. I'm gonna Warren Buffett.
No. Not at all. Not
I'm I wanted to pick the person who seems the most ridiculous. You should be Warren Buffett, just a big Lord of the Rings guy.
I don't know that this is any less ridiculous. It might be more ridiculous.
Okay.
This was on the heels of kind of doing some research as to why Peter Jackson was not involved in this project. Peter Jackson obviously famously directed 18 hours worth of Lord of the Rings content with the original trilogy and then also the Hobbit trilogy. 20 if you
he just likes vacations in New Zealand. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well, 20 hours if you count the extended cut of Return of the King, which is just 2 hours worth of extra closure.
Handshakes all around.
Amazon said that originally they reached out to him, but they were not able to because of legal issues, in that they were given permission to do Lord of the Rings by Warner Brothers, who was the previous owner, as long as they were clearly to be able to be distinguished from The Hobbit and the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so having Peter Jackson involved could potentially cause problems there. But it's worth noting that in August, last month, the Swedish-owned Embracer Group, which is known for gobbling up over 100 game production studios, including, but not limited to, the Tomb Raider studio Crystal Dynamics, purchased Middle-earth Enterprises, which includes all the rights to token-owned media such as games, toys, and as of now, film and television shows. So if you had Embracer Group on your Who Owns Lord of the Rings bingo card, I guess that's a free square for you.
That's sick. Embracer the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So where are you at overall with this? I guess the question is,
yeah,
two episodes of Lord of the Rings, 3 episodes of House of the Dragon. I mean, these shows are going to be directly compared to each other.
Yeah.
This is like Law and Order and CSI duking it out. I've never watched CSI, so I don't know.
You're missing out. CSI. John Mayer makes an appearance in a CSI episode. It's great. CSI is actually a really good show. In all seriousness, old school CSI, great show. Jane's a big fan. I will say that Game of Thrones is awesome, House of the Dragon is awesome. Ring of the Power can be awesome, but they gotta tell me what a story is. They gotta put a story together instead of a lot of random things. Because it looks awesome.
It's only
for the most
8
part.
Episodes.
So we got 6. We're not doing. They're not doubling up every week, are they?
No.
I swear to God, if they double up every week, I'm gonna kill someone.
No.
It's too much. Okay.
Right. Because remember, in a couple of weeks, right around the corner, we're getting 3 episodes of Andor.
Right. Exactly.
3.
But I feel like Andor 3 episodes might just be like awesome.
Maybe
just as
we'll
a side
see.
note. I have a fear. I have a thought there. But I will say I have higher hopes for Game of Thrones, but I'm still optimistic. Or House of Dragon. I'm sorry. House of Dragon, and I think Ring of Power can be great, but we just need to ring it in a little bit. It's the problem. Is what you said. The Game of Thrones, where it went wrong, was too many storylines, and what they're doing with House of Dragons is not too many storylines
yet.
And Ring of Power, there's so much stuff happening that I was like, I watched the second episode like staring at my TV screen, and I was like, I finished it, and I was like, what the fuck happened? Like it looked cool, but it ended. I'm like, the fuck? Like I literally did that, and I don't do that often. Like, and I'm pretty attentive to doing this. So hopefully they reined it.
One other question about Ring of Power for you.
Yeah.
When the dwarves came out and they had the box and they opened it up and it was glowing, what do you think was in the box?
Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
What the fuck?
7. The movie 7. Yeah.
Well,
what's in the box? What do you think was?
Marcellus Wallace's soul.
So we both went. I love it.
Is Marcellus Wallace a bitch?
We just watched it the other day. Okay, so good. No, it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
It's obviously the dwarven rings of power. I mean, that's what the name of the show is. But as soon as I saw, as soon as that scene came on and they're like slowly opening it, there's a glow. I was like, oh, it's Marcellus Wallace's soul.
That's so funny. I was like, it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head. I was like screaming it. So
you know what else it could be?
Class. I was in class. I was just finishing up recess, and I like said it out loud. Like, I was like, it's Gwyneth Paltrow's head. So someone probably like looked in and was like, what is happening in there?
Do you know what else it could be?
Yeah.
It's my dick in a box.
It's my dick in a box. It's my dick in a box. One of the greater Christmas songs, underrated Christmas song.
Step one.
One.
Got a hole in the box. Step 2. You put your dick in a box. That is a great.
I have met Andy Samberg as a side note, and he was very cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Bookstore?
I went to a puppeteer event where I met.
What?
Yeah, I know.
You didn't find any puppet wranglers there?
No, I met Andy Samberg and Colin Hanks.